agenda. Number one, finished object. Number two, work in progress. Let's go. Welcome and welcome back. If you're new here, this is Be Extra, a knitting podcast by me, Stephanos Axnanda. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you and welcome back. So today is the 1st of November, and this has been 1 week since my last episode. Again, every time I say that, I feel like I'm in a confessional booth in the Catholic Church. Anyway, growing up Catholic, as a Catholic boy, it always reminded me of that. Anywho, what else? Yeah, I'll make it short as always, but the as I mentioned earlier, the agenda is very robust for this episode. The first one, I would like to go over this beautiful finished object, which is a test knit. And I will explain about this test knit and basically kind of like a working episode for me where I will document my test knit experience so that I can later on type up in my Ravelry and also post the pictures, both Ravelry and Instagram, so that the designer will have the information needed from the test knitters. And the second one is I am going to fulfill my promise from my last episode where I mentioned I will only talk about the Rhinebeck yarn or yarn I purchased from this previous Rhinebeck. This year's Rhinebeck, which is 2 weeks ago, only when I am working on them. And since I am back on, the project where I am using the yarn, one of the yarn from Rhinebeck, then I will start showing the yarn. All right, so let's start. So the first episode is going to be the finished object. If you don't want to listen about the finished object, if you already see the finished object and you don't care about it, I will place a time marker in the description section of this YouTube episode, so you can jump right away to the yarn showing part. And I guess the third agenda also can be, if you can vote, vote. All right, so finished object. Let me just put this down for a minute because, I need to focus on this because this is important. So, okay. I'm also strategically thinking about how to make this section to be editable for shorts in YouTube where you only have 15 seconds. Okay. So this is let's see. Let's try again. This finished object is a test knit for Juliette Picot design. And I will place the information here. And the name of this pattern is Simply the Vast V-neck. Okay, I think that is 15 seconds, hopefully. Okay, so back up. I don't really do test knit. Since I started knitting heavily, which is the beginning of pandemic, with this, in total, I only have done 2 test knits. Both test knits are four really good friends. So the first one is for Michael Green, and I will also place an information here for Testnet for his design, which was fingerless gloves with Sankofa pattern. Um, Again, I will place the title of the gloves. I might have forgotten a lot of the description, but it was a couple of years ago. But if you go to Ravelry, you will figure out more information. And the second one is this. Now, I met Jules this July or this June during the Pride Month. During Pride Month, if you go back to my YouTube channel, you will find a series of interviews that I conducted with queer designers, queer makers, queer yarn dyers, where the idea was to uplift the community and highlighting the queer makers. And one of them was Jules, who said yes when I asked Jules if she would like to be interviewed. So since then, I have um, kept in touch with Jules, and I even met Jules in. So Jules lives in Boston, and when I went to P Town this summer, I in August I stopped by Boston, and then we met in Boston Fiber Company, and we had a good afternoon. Just sit and knit to just sit and knit, and then this past 2 weeks during Rhinebeck, we also ran into each other. Um, I will also place a picture here. So, um, and I love Jules' design. It is really classic, but really, um, how do I say it? Classic and beautiful, just like Jules. Jules is a beautiful person. Anyway, um, so when Jules sent out a testnet, what do you call announcement, I guess, in back in September, I said, "Hey Jules, I would like to testnet for you. Let me know if it's okay." And then Jules said, "Yeah, okay." And then okay, so I just decided to work on it in October. I think start a week before we went to Rhinebeck, but then let's continue with the yarn. I I was really smart to start this um, test knit with just one ball of yarn of the required yarn. But I did have a plan to buy more yarn of the same, more skeins of the same yarn. It's just that when I bought it, I thought it will be delivered right before I went to Rhinebeck, but the fact was, or what had happened was, uh, the yarn came while I was in Rhinebeck, so I was not able to knit the whole vest while I was in Rhinebeck. I had a plan to just finish it in Rhinebeck, or most of it when I was in Rhinebeck, and show it to Jules in person. But you know, anyway, but as when I got back from Rhinebeck, I picked up the yarn from my mailbox and then continue working on it. And then I just finished it this weekend. And I, again, okay, let's start with what this pattern is. So this is a, a vest, and it's a V-neck, as you can see here. And the size that I test knitted for is 44-inch bust. And this is intended for my sister. That's why I put it on this mannequin with the bust size 44. So what you're seeing here is about 0 inch ease, and I can make it smaller to show you because I think the pattern was intended to be up to 4 inch ease of ease. But I set this mannequin to be exactly 44 inches, and I knitted this for 44 inches circumference of the bust circumference, and I did get gauge. So let's go into the test knit. When I said I want to test knit, I really care about the test knit, meaning I'm putting myself in the designer shoes. Sorry, uh, thinking, okay, what do they need when they ask people to test knit? Okay, they would like to know the information regarding for whatever size that is test knitted, what is the yardage that people actually use to make the garment, what is the size of the needle to get the gauge depending on how they knit, and if there's any comments on the pattern itself, which is the majority of what people will think about when you're test knitting for someone. You're trying to see if there's anything needs to be edited on the pattern. But to me, the most important thing about test knitting is figuring out the actual material needed, which is the yarn needed to make whatever size you're test knitting, and also getting the correct gauge, because you with using the correct gauge, you will know if whatever is the stitch numbers suggested for whatever size you chose to knit, uh, if they're correct or if they need to be updated. So gauge or making gauge during test knit is really important. I mentioned before, gauge itself is important when you want to design your own stuff. Maybe if the thing is, if you know your own knitting with a certain weight of yarn and a certain type of garment. Let's say you knit all the time with worsted, and you know and you want to make stockinette garment only. If you know that you're making a design with the same yarn, let's say another worsted yarn, and you're going to make another stockinette, then maybe you don't really need to gauge because you already have your previous data. However, when you want to start working on a different type of a weight of yarn and also a different type of garment, so instead of stockinette, maybe you need to work on cable sweater, let's say, or cable fabric, or lace fabric, or what else, like different texture, then gauge is really important, especially in a test knitting. Definitely do gauge, make swatch, get gauge, and then start knitting. So before I started knitting this, the first thing I did was making a swatch. So I guess it's easier to see it from here if I put it against my sweater. So you see, I'm sure, again, if this is not new to you, you can fast forward to the next section. But if you are gauging, the way that works for me, right away I gauge with 3 different needle size, with one of them is the size recommended by the pattern. So what the pattern recommended is US, I think US 7. Don't when the pattern is out, you will be able to confirm. But what I did here, I start with, so this these holes right here indicates the size of the needles. So you see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is for US 7, and then I make a marker here, and then I continue with stockinette, and this is for US 8. So there's one hole at the beginning here. And then at the end, it is for US 9. You see how, by just changing needle size, the width of this swatch is already changing a lot. Okay. And another thing is what you need to do after you make your swatch is you need to wash it and, block it. You don't need to block it aggressively. Just lay it flat until until it's dry. And then you start measuring, your swatch. So if the pattern says 4 inches, for 4 inches you need to have X amount of stitches, then you measure 4 inches area of your swatch at from the different needle size, and choose the needle size that will give you the exact stitch. So for me, I got the exact stitch amount when I use US size 8. So even though the pattern that Jules suggested to use US 7, with my gauge, with my way of knitting, I need to use US 8. That means I knit a little bit tighter than Jules does, right? Because I need bigger needle to get the same amount of stitches for 4 inches. So again, anyway, I'm sure you have heard about that. If you're tighter, then you need to go tighter, neater than the designer. You need to go up a needle size. So one thing that I also like to do when I work on someone else's pattern, I document I call it the tension factor. So what is the tension factor? I have another episode that I talk about this. If I can figure out from which episode it is, I will place in the description section of this episode. But a tension factor is basically a ratio between the tension of the designer to the tension of my knitting. So if I'm talking about the size of the needle, then I can just take the ratio of the needle size that Jules suggested to the needle size that I actually use. So, all right. Hopefully people can see. Okay, so people should be able to see that. So I will just write here. So I call it tension factor. So FT. I call it FT. So FT, I would put the ratio tension of Jules knitting to the tension of my knitting. And tension here could be the size of the needle. So I can just put what is the needle size that Jules used and the needle size that I use, and then take a ratio. Or I can use the number of stitches that Jules got for 4 inches with the US 7 suggested, and the number of stitches that I got using the same US 7 for 4 inches. And I should have more stitches than what Jules got. So if I take that ratio, hopefully the ratio between the stitch number and the ratio between the US size is not too different. Even if it's different, then you can just choose which number you want to remember or you want to document. Is it the tension factor of the needle size, or tension factor based on your stitches? All right, so for an example, I will just use tension factor of the needle size. So what Jules used is US 7, and what I use is US 8. So the tension factor between Jules and mine is going to be less than a unity. So 7 divided by 8 is 0.875 joules over Stephanus. So, okay, so this is what I like to do when I do a test knit or when I knit using somebody else's pattern. I document the tension factor between the designer and me. So here I call it the tension factor between Jules and me. So Jules suggested to use US 7 to get the gauge, but for me to get the gauge I need to use US 8, and then if I take the ratio it's 0.875. Meaning the next time, let's say I want to make another pattern designed by Jules, and assuming the pattern will also, you know, will also be written for similar garment or structure. For example, and this is stockinette. So if it's for another stockinette, then I can use this tension factor. So maybe in this tension factor, I need to specify tension factor stockinette. So because you know, tension factor or tension for stockinette versus tension for cable might be different, right? So next time, let's say Jules made another design of a V-neck but a full sweater, and maybe it's using a different type of yarn. Then I can just if I'm not test knitting, if I just want to make it, then you know, if I don't have to really make like a full swatch, then my shortcut is just using this factor tension. So then I just put into this formula, so 0.875 equal to whatever Jules suggested. Let's say Jules suggested for the next design to be US 6. So then what I need to do is, for my size, it's going to be US 6 divided by 0.875, and then that will be by my needle size. So for me, that has, well, one thing I need to make sure is I assume Jules knitting does not change. Now, if Jules knitting way of knitting change, their tension changes, then this tension factor does not work. Now, in the previous episode, I also suggested that we as a knitter should have a unified or a standardized knitting reference. Meaning we should have, for example, NIST, you know, for, you know, any units that being used, there is a standard reference somewhere, right? Like, what is 1 grams? What is one, you know, there is a reference somewhere. So something will be referenced back to, you know, a standard. An accepted standard. So if there is a knitting standard, so let's say a certain machine making stockinette, cable, whatever garment, then what I propose is when a designer make their pattern, they get their gauge compared to the gauge of that standard and get a factor. Now, why is that important? Because if they put that factor number in each of their pattern, every time they publish a pattern, that factor will tell you if their knitting tension has changed or stays constant. And if you are able to get that standard and figure out your own knitting factor, tension factor or factor tension, to the standard, then between you, the standard, and the designer, you can just easily convert whatever is suggested for the size of the needle without even making a swatch. Again, I think this should be done or should be proposed. Who do you talk for that? There should be a knitting, whatever, right? Like global knitting association. I don't know. Whoever makes standard, we should do that. Don't you think? Anyway, gauge is important. So once I got gauge, I went ahead and start with the knitting. I love it. I feel like it's so simple, but it is so classic that it's giving that Ralph Lauren type of, oh, by the way, this is not coordinated. I'm not that good at coordinating, but it does go. If only I can wear this, this will go so well together, wouldn't you think? Anyway, it is a top down. You start initially working with one side of the front, and then put on a waist yarn or a barber cord after you hit this part, and then you start with the other side of the front, and then put on the barber cord, and then connect the two together, and then after you connect the two together, you put it on another waist yarn, and then the next one is you work on the back side, and after you reach the same area where you stop for the front, you connect the front and the back by creating this underarm, by adding underarm stitches, and then you just work round and round, and then you work round and round until you hit about 2.5 inches. I added more. I actually went 3 inches just because I like ribbing that is a little bit, longer. It just makes it feel, looks, I don't know. So sorry, Jules, if I deviated a bit, but this is actually 3 inches instead of 2.5. Uh, and it's a high low. Sorry. I haven't done what do you call weaving in end. So there are a lot of ends inside here, but I just hide them. And I haven't steamed. I mean, I haven't blocked this. I just steamed it before I start recording. By the way, this is Friday, November 1st, 9:45 p.m. So, yeah, it's good that I can actually make sentences in English. You know, I actually anyway, I should not go to a different topic, but I don't know, as a polyglot or multilingual, don't you always think inside your head every time you speak that you want to make sure you can give the same sentence or give the sentence with whatever language that you're using out of your mouth, but in your brain you translate it automatically to multiple other languages? Sometimes you sound like not too bright because you're speaking so slow or like staccato kind of thing, like mm, 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 mm. But sometimes it's because you're trying to convert it in parallel to multiple language. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking with that. One, I don't know if it's allowed for me to share this, but one thing I like for this separation, or it's a split hem. For this separation, there was a little bit like a crossover, so that you don't really see how. By the way, I need to still make this what do you call, like weaving in, so it's going to be better, like a cleaner. But when because of the crossing at that separation, you don't really see a stitch that is like separated too wide. I like that. And it's high low, so it's lower in the back, but because you have a some bumps on the back, this will be a little bit leveled up. And again, this will get nicer when I block it um, properly. And again, sorry, Jules, I did not go to a smaller needle for the ribbing because I like ribbing to be relaxed. I know, people like ribbing a little bit, like nice and a bit tighter, but I like when ribbing is a little bit relaxed. You can kind of see this is a little bit like wavy here. Some people might not like that, but to me, I like it, especially when you're a little bit bigger body size. You will appreciate that extra fabric. So instead of like kind of like constraining, I don't know what the again what the word is, but I like this. I think this will wear well. It might not look good on a display, but when you wear it, it will work with you. Yeah, it's just my experience. Um, Again, Jules, if you watch this, those are some changes that I made. I did not go down a needle size, and I added half an inch here. Other than that, everything is okay. And I will write a report on my Ravelry with this data and the tension factor, even though you did not ask, Jules. But that's it. So, why did I make this? I want to give this to my sister. So after I wash, and hopefully I do not put ink. This ink is kind of leaking. After I wash this, I will block it, send it to California where my sister is, ask her to try it if I need to go longer, but I don't think so because this is exactly her size. I put this mannequin to her size. So, and then for this is for our trip to the UK, so London and also Edinburgh in December for a family reunion. So my sister will wearing the vest in one of the pictures that we're gonna take, um, and then I will talk more about the other family member. But another thing, total yarn. I only use 200. Let me see, 296. I think 296 grams. So this is worsted. Also, this is Cumbria, Onto the Hills by the Fiber the Fiber Company. Come on, Stephanos. The Fiber Company Cumbria. And it is worsted 216 meter for 100 grams. And this is 90% wool and 10% mohair. So I think it's Peruvian wool and 10% mohair. And then the colorway is called Saint Bees Beach. I love it. Some people might think this looks like burlap, but I like it. Sometimes I like really like really basic staple type of garment. And sometimes I like colors, so I don't mind. So anyway, yeah, 296 grams, and that turns into 639.36 meters of worsted. So yeah, and that is pretty much 4 grams less than 3 skeins of full skein of worsted. So if you have 3 skeins of worsted, you can make this size 44-inch bust. If you are even smaller than that, definitely you can make that with 3 skeins of worsted. So, and I would say this is the extra channel. If you're a beginner, I would say beginner. If you started being comfortable with making knit and purl and want to pick up how to increase, how to decrease, do this. If you want to make your first sweater, this is a good starting. It's a v-neck vest. It's not a sweater, but it is a good start. It's using worsted. It is fast. You will get your vest in no times. Okay, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you stay with it. Um, and and even if you're an advanced knitter, this is really staple, good, beautiful staple, basic, like or addition to your um, wardrobe, and um, and it's just nice to have a good garment that, if you know what, I'm actually going to make this for me, but it's gonna be after December because I have so many sweaters that is you know already in line to be made, which is going to be my next topic. But that's it. That's for the first section of this episode, which is the uh, test knit. So, Jules, hopefully you are happy with this test knit that I did. Um, yeah. So next, I am working on the cardigan, which is for my other sister. So this is for my younger sister, and this is based on my own design, called the Giotto sweater, but I'm turning it into cardigan, and I am using. Um, Now we can go into the yarn showing. It's beautiful thing that I found. Sorry, I have ink on my finger from my Be Extra um, Lamy pen that I got from Germany. I love nice pen. The ink, I was out of ink, so I was um, changing the ink cartridge earlier, and then anyway, I mean, I keep looking at stuff that I hold because I don't want the ink to go everywhere, so I was just making sure I did not. Anyway, so this is already dry, so don't get a heart attack. Fluff, this is a collaboration between Walcott Yarns from United Kingdom, Bath, United Kingdom, and Le Garçon from Canada, and the name of the yarn is Fluff. And this is a sport weight fluff, which is a baby alpaca and what do you call baby alpaca wool. So 55% alpaca, 18% wool, 17% silk mulberry, 10% yak, 100% dreamy. uh I have 7 skeins of this. One, two, three, 4, 5, and then I already started using 2 skeins. So one color each. So I have 5 skein of the red color, and then 1 skein of the gray color, and each of this is 200 uh, meters, so 1400 meters of sport. So that should be enough for a cardigan of her size. If even if not, oh shoot, since this is a top down, I can make it, if I'm out of yarn, I can always make it like um shorter sleeves, maybe. Who knows? Hold on, I dropped one of them. Um, so let me just continue working on this. Uh, I found this when I was in Cake Palooza, and I found it from the truck yarn. Um, if somebody know the his or who owns the truck yarn, let me know. But they carry multiple, I mean, different yarns, meaning, from different make dyers. So I would say, they're a store, but they have a truck. Maybe their store is the truck. So I should figure this out before I start talking about them. But anyway, I got it inside the truck. So if you went to uh, Cake Palooza, so it's basically the truck right by the entrance. Um, and I was, I was actually looking for uh, yarn that is either mohair or something fluffy, and um, I was going to find something that I will hold with with like a fingering yarn, because usually mohair is lace, because I want to get DK uh, weight at the end. However, when I saw this fluff, and it's sport, I was so happy because then I can just use it directly without holding it with another fingering. So I'm really happy I found that. So even though Cake Palooza was our first, no, not really actually, our second stop during the um, Rhinebeck weekend, I don't really mind. I already got, like a sweater quantity um, of purchase, because especially that was for my sister. So, and that exactly what I was looking for. Anyway, what you just saw I was doing was, okay, so my sister was specific when she made the request. She asked for Christmassy sweater, not sweater, cardigan that is fluffy, maybe mohair, and as annoying as it could be, meaning sparkly. Now, my friend said, don't make it too annoying, because in case she doesn't like in case she doesn't like it, then you won't be able to find somebody to wear it. In my mind, I'm making this close to my size, and it's first of all fluffy, second of all sparkly, third of all extra. And what is the title of this channel? Be extra. I will be the one who will wear this if she doesn't like it. Okay? No problem. So, um, because I want it to be sparkly, I decided to get this. Can you say this? Sparkly. What do you call? It's not a yarn. It's like a sewing thread. So I just hold it with the sewing thread, and and I'm like, okay, maybe it's sparkly enough, but it's not annoying enough. You know what? I decided to add pearls. So I found these pearls. I mean, and and then what I do is I just use this um, crochet needle. So if I wanna, so I can show you. So if I want to add that, into the knitting, I just take um I just take the thread. So you see the thread instead of the whole yarn, instead of the whole fluff, and then you know put on the thread loop and then continue knitting. Um, yes, it will slow me down, but the thing is, I am not going to put um, the what do you call this thing? What do you call this again? Um, Sorry, the diamond, not diamond, pearl. In every stitch or in every row, it'll just be really scattered all over, so that you see it's very random, but I'm not is random and also medium, big, large, small size combined. So just think about it. So if I go through this and then just put it in random rows, it will give you like a effect of I don't know, the stars, because again, this is depicting the ceiling of degli Scrovegni in Padua, Italy, where Giotto painted stars on blue night sky on the ceiling of this chapel. So so I decided, okay, this is you know uh, confirming the design that I'm trying to do, while checking the requirement of being annoying. Now, again, if she doesn't like it, I will wear Christmassy, fluffy, sparkly, and pearly. I mean, hello, that is me. Anyway, hopefully she will like it. And hopefully I will finish this early, meaning maybe like in a week or two, maybe 1.5 week, especially by adding this what do you call this thing? Again, it's not diamond, pearls. It might slow me down, but again, I'm not gonna put it everywhere. Maybe every 8 rows I start to add some pearls. But this is the first row I added the pearl. But I already have multiple rows here, but it's not a problem because it's really random. And I'm not gonna make it too many pearls on it, and it becomes so heavy anyway. So so that's what I'm working on, and I think that's should be it for now. um I again, I promise the viewer that I will be showing yarn that I got from, oh, so beautiful already. Oh, I love this annoying uh what do you call this thing? Annoying pearl. Why is it difficult for me to remember pearl? Anyway, it's already 49 minutes. I should stop now. Before I go, in the last oh, before I go, I just realized this color and this color almost similar, right? And it is alpaca for this one, and it is this alpaca and silk and blah blah blah. This is much softer than this, but So this is, I covered this in my earlier episodes last year. One of my favorite. So I wear this whenever I go skiing. This is called the Palembang sweater. If you go back to my previous episodes in last year, you will hear about the, oh, this could be the front page. Hold on, hold on. So, sorry. Um yeah, we will be twins uh for the Christmas, because we will be there during Christmas, so hopefully this will be beautiful. Before I go, last episode I forgot to talk about one thing that has been a tradition since the first time I went to Rhinebeck. First time I went to Rhinebeck was actually 2021, when they reopened after the pandemic has started. At Rhinebeck, inside the ground, the fairground, there is a museum, which is a barn, a huge barn that not a lot of people will go. However, it is located right across from the hill of the donut, the cider donut. So if you are lining up for the donut, if you look at to your left, there is the iconic tree, right? The orange reddish color leaf tree. Behind, or to the left of that tree, is a big museum that not a lot of people went. In the museum, there are a couple of things that they're showing. One of the permanent showing is printmaking, printmaking. So they're showing how, printing is done using a manual machine, where you line up all this letter individually, and then you put it on a board, and then the board, you roll the ink, and then you press a paper onto it, and then cover it, and then put a what do you call, like a pressure that is balanced across the paper, so that you get a good printing. And I have been so it's free. So if you go to the museum, you will find people, or there are usually two people actively working on the printing. They even tell you the history about printing, what they're making, how they're doing it, and you can pick up this as a souvenir. No line, free, beautiful. Okay, 2021. I will frame this. I just don't have time. I mean, I know it's since 2021. I don't have time to figure out the framing, but I'm not a good person to decorate the house. Look at this. This is, I don't have, a good decorating intuition. Like, I can design stuff for myself. Decorating, no. Oh, it's funny how the change of face color with different. Interesting. Huh. So this one is 2022. Do you know it started from 1980? And there's something special about 1980 that I'm not gonna say. So 1980 to 2021, 2022, and then 2023 they had, also 2022 they have a smaller version, but then 2023 they somehow had issue with the bigger machine. They just make a smaller one, like a smaller card. But then this year they decided to just, you know, continue with the smaller one and no more of the bigger size. But it's just fine. I took two of them. I was going to give one of them to my friend Ivana, but then we got split up. I will just send it to her through uh, the. Oh, this could also be a good uh, front page. Yeah, so I'll just send it to her. But anyway, until next time, maybe next week I will make another episode because it makes me. Because I have a deadline, right? December 20th is our reunion. I need to finish my sisters, and I want to make a sweater that is inspired by my friend Chester during the rainback. I'm not going to show the yarn yet because it's a beautiful surprise. Yes. So next week hopefully I get really far with my sister's cardigan so that the week after or 2 weeks after that, which would be already Thanksgiving. Shoot. Hopefully by Thanksgiving, I cast on my birthday sweater. And it's a special treat for myself. And the yarn is just, you just have to see it because it's going to be mixed media type of thing, which is really, I don't know. It just makes me so excited when something is just so outside the normalcy. Like usually, okay, people hold the same fingering merino wool, non superwash or superwash, and never want to mix things. No, this one, we're gonna mix yarn, we're gonna mix texture, we're gonna mix color. Yes, we're gonna mix. Okay, so can you see how excited I am about that sweater? But that's going to be my 2024 birthday sweater. It's not gonna be my design. I'm okay with it because when I see something beautiful, something creative, I give my credit to them. I give them the credit. Look, I will work on with your pattern to make, whatever garment that I see is so beautiful. Anyway, thank you, Chester, to inspire me from the Rhinebeck trip to make the 2024 Stephanus's birthday sweater. So that would be maybe in 3 weeks that I will start that. So if you're new, if you're thinking, oh, I don't like this guy, but I would like to see the yarn that he has, maybe come back in 3 weeks. But if you don't like this YouTube, well, I'm sorry. There's so many other YouTube that talks about yarn all the time. But until then, be extra. Be fluffy. Extra fluffy. Be extra sparkly. Be extra annoying. But in a good way. Meaning annoying as in keep leveling up. Don't stay where you are. Don't get comfortable. Don't be predictable. So people will think, oh, you're so annoying. I cannot predict you. That's what I mean by be extra, Not just be annoying. Well, sometimes we are so annoying anyway. Nothing we can do about that. Oh my god, it's 1 hour. I should not talk this much. Anyway, be extra. Bye.